Greetings and welcome back to the lesson. Today we are going to begin on a new topic under the Advanced Public Financial Management subject. The topic is called Management of Public Debts in both national and county governments. This topic has 5 subtopics. Number 1, Introduction to Public Debt and Debt Instruments. Number 2, Establishment, Functions of Public Debt Office. Number 3, Debt Management in the County Government. Number 4, Global Best Practices in Management of Public Debts. Number 5, Key Stakeholder and their roles in public debt management, including the National Treasury and Parliament, that is key stakeholders. The number 6, Power of national government to lend money and management of guarantees. Today we'll do the introduction to public debt, and then we will outline the debt instruments. Now, candidates, public debt, also known as government debt, it can also be known as the public debt or the national debt, sometimes referred to as sovereign debt, is the total amount of debt owed at a point in time by government or county government. All right? So government debt or public debt can be owed to lenders within the country, or it can be owed to foreign lenders. That is the domestic debt and foreign debt. The debt that is owed to members within the country or bodies within the country, it could be the banks or individuals, any debt that the government owes persons within the country is known as the domestic debt. And any debt owed to persons outside the country is referred to as foreign debt or owed to foreign lenders. Now, the portion of the total debt which has a direct charge on government revenues is taken as public debt. And public debt is a measure of government indebtedness. It includes debts denominated in shillings as well as debt denominated in foreign currency. And candidates, as I just said, public debt comprises of domestic and external debt. And each type has its own benefits and drawbacks. That is the domestic debt and the external debt. The internal debt and external debt each has got its own drawbacks, with trade-off between cost of borrowing and exposure to various types of risks that needs to be balanced in order to ensure ample and timely access to cost-effective funding. So candidates, domestic debt, we can say, is a charge on the budget and must be serviced through government revenues or maybe additional borrowings. Whereas the external debt is a charge on balance of payments and perhaps additional borrowings. Do you understand that? Domestic debt and B, external debt or foreign debt. I've just said the domestic debt is a charge on the budget. That means that the domestic debt has to be funded through the budget. Domestic debt is a charge on the budget and must be serviced through government revenues. It's prudent, candidates, when the government borrows internally, then the repayment of such debt should be through the revenues that the government obtains from taxes internal. However, foreign debt or external debt, should be serviced through balance of payment. It's a charge on balance of payments and must be serviced from foreign exchange earnings. Domestic debt is serviced through government revenues, whereas foreign debt is serviced through foreign exchange earnings. It could be serviced through reserve drawdowns, or additional borrowing or borrowings. Now, these two, the domestic debt and the foreign debt, should be managed separately. Why? In order to ensure what we call fiscal and external account solvency. This one should be managed properly or prudently or separately so that the government can maintain fiscal account solvency internally. The foreign debt should be managed separately so as to achieve the external account solvency. Okay? Now, let's proceed and outline public debt instruments. Public debt instruments. Public debt instruments. Types of public debt instruments. Now, the debt instruments are those instruments that require the payment of principal and interest, or both, at some points in the future. And all liabilities are considered debt, except liabilities in form of equity and investment, fund shares, and financial derivatives. Okay? Do you understand? First of all, I've said that debt instruments are those instruments that require the payment of principal and interest, or both at the same points of time in future. Debt. And all liabilities are considered to be debt, except liabilities in form of equity and investment fund shares, except financial derivatives, except employee stock options. And these instruments include special drawing rights, the SDRs, special drawing rights. Then we have what we call currency and deposits. This is another form of debt instruments, currency and deposits. Debt securities, obviously loans. Loan is a debt, type of a debt. Loans, we have pensions, insurance, and standard guaranteed schemes, insurance, pensions, and standard guaranteed schemes, other accounts payable, other accounts payable. So what are these SDRs? SDRs, special drawing rights. Special drawing rights are international reserve assets created by the IMF and allocated to its members to supplement what we call reserve assets. SDRs represent each holder's unconditional right to obtain foreign exchange or other reserve assets from other International Monetary Fund members. So SDRs are assets with matching liabilities, but the assets represents claims on the participants collectively and not on the IMF. And candidates, a participant may sell some or all of its SDR holdings to another participant and then receive other reserve assets, particularly foreign exchange, in return. Participants may also use SDRs to meet liabilities. So special drawing rights candidates are international reserve assets, and these assets are created by the IMF and allocated to members of IMF. The purpose is to supplement reserve assets, and they represent each holder's unconditional right to obtain foreign exchange or other reserve assets from other participants. These are members of IMF. This is a type of public debt instrument. The second type is currency and deposits. Currency, we all know, consists of notes and coins that are of fixed nominal values and are issued or authorized by the central bank or by the government. And all sectors may hold currency as assets, but normally only the central bank or the government is able to issue currency under the authorization of the central bank or the government. And currency candidates constitutes a liability of the issuing units. And therefore, the unissued currency held by a public sector unit is not treated as a financial asset of the public sector or liability of the central bank. But gold and commemorative coins that are not in circulation as legal tender or as monetary gold are classified as non-financial assets rather than currency. So currency are just notes and coins. Now deposits, on the other hand, deposits are all claims represented by evidence of a deposit on the deposit-taking corporation, including the central bank, and in some cases, general government and other institutional units. So a deposit is usually a standard contract that is open to the public at large that allows the placement of a variable amount of money. So currency and deposits are also types of debt instruments. Then we have debt securities. What are debt securities? Debt securities are negotiable financial instruments serving as evidence of debt. The security normally specifies a schedule for interest payments and principal repayments. And examples of debt securities are things like bills, bonds, debentures, including bonds that are convertible into shares, commercial paper, negotiable certificates of deposits. We have loans that have become negotiable from one holder to another. That's also a form of a debt security. We have asset-backed securities, and also what we call the collateralized debt obligations. Bankers' acceptances are also debt securities, and other similar instruments normally traded in the financial markets. Debt financial market, debt securities. These are instruments that are traded in the financial market. There are many: asset-backed securities, collateralized debt obligations, non-participating preferred stocks or shares, and so on. Debt securities. Loans. Loans. A loan is a financial instrument that is created when a creditor lends funds directly to a debtor and receives non-negotiable documents as evidence of the asset. We may, in this category, have instruments like the overdrafts, bank overdrafts, mortgage loans, loans to finance trade, credit, and advances. We may have repurchase agreements, financial assets and liabilities created by financial leases. We may have claims or liabilities to the IMF in form of loans. Okay? So candidates, the trade, credit, and advances and similar accounts payable are not loans. That's why we have accounts payable here. These are not loans. And loans that have become marketable in the secondary markets should be reclassified under debt securities. However, if only traded occasionally, the loan is not reclassified under debt securities. So these are loans. Then 5, insurance, pensions, and standard guaranteed schemes. Now, these comprise the non-life insurance technical reserves, the life insurance and annuities entitlements. We have pension entitlements. These could also include what we call the claims of pension funds on pension managers. We also have entitlements to non-pension benefits, provision for calls under standardized guaranteed schemes, and so on. That's what constitutes insurance, pensions, and standard guaranteed schemes under public debt instruments. Then lastly, we have other accounts payable. Other accounts payable consists of trade credits and advances and miscellaneous other items due to be paid. All such liabilities should be valued at the amount the debtor is contractually obliged to pay the creditor to extinguish the obligation. So trade credit and advances include the trade credit extended directly to purchase goods and services. It may also include advances for work that is in progress or to be undertaken, such as progress payments made during construction or for prepayment of goods and services. So the trade credit extended by the seller of goods and services does not include loans, does not include debt securities, does not include other liabilities that are provided by a third party to finance trade. So if a government unit issues a promissory note or other security to consolidate the payment due on several trade credits, then the note or the security will be classified as a debt security. Do you understand? Trade credit extended by the seller of goods and services does not include loans, does not include debt securities or other liabilities that are provided by a third party. So these are types of public debt instruments: special drawing rights, currency and deposits, debt securities, loans, insurance payments, insurance, pensions and standard guaranteed schemes, and other accounts payables. Thank you for attending the lesson. I will see you in our next session where we continue to share knowledge in public finance. Thank you. Bye.